joined Cubic at that time, so I've been with Cubic almost 24 years now. I'm in the program control organization, which has the overall management of cost, price, and project planning teams across the company. And then I basically administer and implement the program control policy with partnerships from our business development and program management teams to our guidelines. Cubic's a little over $1.5 billion in sales through fiscal year 19, a little bit more this year. We have about 6,500 employees worldwide. There are mainly three operating segments of Cubic. One is Cubic Transportation. That's actually about 60% of our current sales. They are actually a market-leading integrator of payment systems and intelligent travel solutions. In Mission Solutions is about 20% of our current sales. They provide expeditionary communication solutions to U.S. government, defense, and operational agencies. Cubic Defense, which is the final 20% of our company, is a leading provider of training systems and solutions, both real and virtual. It is a variety, for sure, and you pointed out very well, it's in service and product of a variety of types of solutions for our customers. To give you the top level down a little bit, we have somewhere around 800 to 900 proposals a year across the company. Maybe 10 to 15% of those go through the corporate office, so they do vary significantly in size. The contracts that we were when you consider the base and the options approach $1 billion or more. And then you have variations to those contracts. You have products and services that our defense teams and even our transportation team will offer, because there is hardware that go along with those transportation solutions. We're helping, in our mind, envision or realize the one Cubic vision, a consistent tool set across the company that people understand will be all-inclusive of the items that are necessary in the proposal structure, the work breakdown deliverable structure, the indentured cost of end items, the risks and the opportunities. All of that will be in a repeatable manner in one capability. That single source of truth is important to have, and we've also found a way to mutually get to what I call pitch-ready data views, which are really of two types. One type is you've enabled us to create views of data that we can make into real pitch charts through our BI tool. And basically, whether we want to use pitch charts or use that BI platform, we have about 12 or 15 data formats that we repeatedly use. And we've also created internally a series of views that I'm going to use my description, Magnus, I hope you don't mind. It almost acts like a little pivot table where we have about 50 or so pre-populated views of matrix data that we can get or change through this little pivot table view. And what that enables people to do is get little summaries of information that be very valuable to the steps along the way. Just a quick example of that, if I'm an engineering team and I'm in the UK, I can go in and get a little sort of which work breakdown structures and which activities or organizations in my team are supporting this, and what do those hours breakout look like? So they can get a little summary of that. And by the way, it's nice because they get it in pounds sterling. They don't have to worry about, even though the proposal might be submitted in US dollars, they work in their home currencies. So they can get input data and information in a very simple manner. It's an automated business process. There's built-in workflows. I love the workflows. Workflows to me mean I want to assign someone the need to define the work and scope to be performed and the cost for that. that person gets informed that there's a task waiting for them. As that person completes that effort, the person that is basically the first reviewer to do a peer review or a management review of that gets a chance to check that. We get reuse, which is significant to us. I call it versioning, and I think the tool set calls it versions. Surprise, surprise, the first time a request proposal comes out, that doesn't mean that's the last thing you'll ever do. Sometimes things get updated during evaluation or negotiation, or requirements change, or customer budget changes. There can be a number of things that can cause the original proposal to be changed or modified. So what we can do is take that proposal that was done, in essence, create a new version, copy over that data set, and make all the changes. And I can compare the two side by side. So again, I won't use the customer name, but we had one customer where we submitted 4 to 5 major updates of this proposal through about a year period. And we could help ourselves by understanding all the changes along the way and not lose track of configuration change, assumption change, cost change, and the like. The significance of reuse is important. So some proposals are very similar. We can create a template if we have a repeating format or requirement that comes up. And we can basically use that template as a starting point for, let's say, a 60 or 70% solution, and then populate the appropriate details for that specific request. And then we found there are other use cases, and use cases might sound a little silly, but we can put in what we call a standard product offering. So we have a roadmap, let's say, of what we think our current version of an end item is. We can just create a proposal, if you will, we'll call it a proposal, that populates that so that every time someone wants to use that end item in a proposal, they don't have to go create the indenture and build it. They can go to that other entity and say, hey, I want to use this, just pull it in and let's start from there if I can make any modifications. So we really thought through the flexibility the tool set gives us, because it is a database and it's a reusable set of packaged items. I don't know if we mentioned it before, but when I say reach business systems, this tool reaches into our SAP system and can pull out cost of efforts. It can pull out configurations. You can reach into our engineering system and pull out configuration and data sets. It can reach into what we use for our customer relations management, Salesforce, and pull in a lot of that customer related information and setup. It can interface with what we use for our project planning scheduling tool. It's P6 Primavera, so it can interface with that and actually push and pull time-phased resources between schedules and the baseline. When we're done in a costing or pricing, we have an interface that you've been able to basically push those time-phased resources into an SAP planning project. I use the term planning project because many times we haven't been awarded yet. We can do that at the time we choose, and we can push that into SAP as the starting point, and it can be a significant starting point for what does get baseline once that award occurs, because all those things are now populated in that SAP tool set and can be modified into the final work packages. And we did chat a little bit about interfacing with the P6 schedule, but that helps at the resource loading of the schedule at the time of award too. The other thing that enables, the second piece of that, is it's integral to our business planning process. So think of it this way. When we submit proposals, you're basically submitting a portfolio of future business. And guess what happens during business planning, during any kind of fiscal year orientation? You're projecting forward 1, 2, 3, maybe 5 years, that business planning of what you're going to operate to and what your operating costs are in your organization. So we now have a database that has a portfolio of all those things right there, and can be used as a resource library so that it's not just, oh, I think I have these opportunities, these quantum. I actually have some tangibility down to more detailed levels so that teams can look at how much labor, how much subcontract, how much material, and really look at the affordabilities of not just what that direct base looks like in the business plan, but what the affordability of overheads and other operating costs might be around that. The functionality of making deterministic calculations. I want one day of one person and I know the rate for that person, and let's go do math and multiply that out. That is not the functionality that became difficult. What we find in the costing realm, and as an imperative within our company, we do use the term risk-adjusted cost. And to us, risk-adjusted cost considers two things. One, and this is, again, something we value that's built right into tool, are we call them technical risks and opportunities. So risk management is very big during a program performance. It's one of the cornerstones of what you put in your program management plan, and the PMBOK describes the necessity of understanding the risk around either known or unknown uncertainties that you'll address. So we have the ability in the tool to identify down to where in that work breakdown structure something exists. What are those risks? What's the quantification of the impact potentially of cost, of schedule? How can those be overall compiled into a range, if you will, of cost? And we add one final development portion called independent assessment, where we'll look into our past, and we have a large amount of performance data. We've done many programs, and we can use that data parametrically to look at the variability of performance, because we know that it's never always a fixed amount. Just like in operations, organizations have standards, but then there's something that's called realization to standards, which means there can be slight variability based on the people assigned, the complexity of the task, the volume of the work, and a number of things can affect the result. So we try to combine the technical assessment, the independent evaluation, and look at, if you will, a profile of cost, where at a high likelihood you might believe, if you think of it in terms of a distribution, you might believe you can really focus in that here's where we believe the likely outcome of that cost will be. But we're not closing our eyes to the risks or opportunities around performing at that, and any uncertainties or unknowns that are in the program, especially if you're developing something or you haven't performed that service before. So we look at what effects can there be on cost, and also on the revenue we receive. They're just like in many other types of business, but there can be withholds, if you will. Sometimes they're called abatements to that revenue if you don't meet certain standards of operation or certain availability or certain performance indicators. So we can put those together in this tool and look at a profile of risk-adjusted cost and profitability, and really inform our leaders as they're making these decisions based on what the customer deems as value, what the market is competitively valuing the work at, and what our execution and profitability looks like. We can make very transparent decisions in what we believe is a more informed manner.